LaxFactor podcast. College lacrosse discussion page. The question that was posed to me to answer here this week by Jesse Bruning. I think I pronounced that right. Maybe Bruning. I'm going to read it totally out, and then I'll answer it after that. He says, probably not the kind of quick question you were planning on answering, but, and here we go. With the popularity of the sport still expanding, NCAA Division I teams increasing, large football schools suddenly getting competitive. I think he's talking about Michigan, Ohio State, teams like that. Conference realignments. Should fans of powerhouse programs from the past like Syracuse and Hopkins just be happy that they're staying relevant and not expect the dynasty status they've enjoyed in the past? And can all of the fans stop pretending that their coaches are in the hot seat because they're not, perennial Memorial Day, they're not showing up on Memorial Day and playing in the semis every year? My answer to that is yes and no. And actually, yes and no. I don't even know if it was a yes and no question, but my answer is going to be that I think it's okay for Syracuse fans and for Hopkins fans to be lemon-colly, as my daughter would call it, at the fact that we don't make it to Memorial Day weekend every year in and year out again. Syracuse's streak was 22 straight years before it got broken, and then they still go back to the tournament, but Memorial Day weekend has been scarce since that streak broke, and I think we've only had one Memorial Day appearance, possibly, since that streak broke. I could be wrong on that. Anyway, I think that we're okay with being upset. I think that we're okay to expect more, but I think that that's reasonable. And I think even Carcaterra had said that, like in a season like this season coming up for Syracuse, anything less than a Memorial Day trip should be just about considered a failure. And I think that the Syracuse coaching staff is going to agree with that. I think the Syracuse players would agree with that. You don't make it to Memorial Day with the squad they're about to put on the field, that's a failure. Now, in the past years, I don't think it has been. I mean, in past years, they've been within the last 6 years. Every year now that I do this, it's going to go back. But 5-6 years ago, Syracuse was putting a 1 and 2 was the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed in the tournament, and Syracuse has made the tournament every year since then. So it isn't like Syracuse and Hopkins have been terrible. Hopkins plays a brutal schedule, so they're hovering around 500 these last handful of years. That's been a product of just playing a brutal schedule and everything kind of evening out a little bit. But here's where I think that things are going to go back. I think that what you see is kids are dumb. And I don't mean that literally. I just mean kids are subject to peer pressure. So kids want to play for whoever the current hot team is, and then kids end up getting bored. So what happens is all it takes is for a team, for instance, like Virginia, to win a national championship or to do well a handful of years, get a new head coach, more importantly, get a young new head coach. And listen, Lars Tiffany isn't a young head coach. He's been around the block for a long time, but he's young in the sense that this success that he's had with Virginia is way above anything he's ever accomplished before, at least, professionally in the college lacrosse world as a coach. So I think what happens is you have a sexy coach for a little while, or sexy programs for a little while, then I think the kids get bored, and I think that you'll see a shift. Now, teams like Duke, for instance, they're always going to be pretty good because the level of education they provide is always going to win some top guys over. But what we're already seeing is that the depth and the quality and the blue chippers that they've been getting haven't panned out quite as much as they used to in the past. You know what I mean? It used to be they get this kid, he was guaranteed going to be filthy. Anymore, it's a hit and miss a little bit more now. So I think that what you'll end up seeing is a team like Syracuse or Hopkins. Eventually, their coaches are going to move on. I think that Desco and Petro, I just had a total brain fart. I think Desco and Petro are going to both have good years. I think Desco and Petro, before they each retire, could still win national titles, and I think that their teams are going to continue to be good. But don't front on the energy and the excitement that a new coach being brought to the mix brings for either of these schools. I feel like it's one of those deals where between the fan base and the players, the long-term status that these teams have held. And then they have all these players out all over the place. They have former players that are coaching younger guys. I feel like you bring a young coach, more specifically a young coach who's an alum of one of these schools, and I think that they win a national championship with 4 or 5 years. I think that what you see with Virginia, they struggled for a little while under their longtime coach. Starja steps down. They bring in a young guy. Excitement swirls, and he's a great recruiter, and they win a national title. I feel like that you will see that bounce back for teams like Hopkins and Syracuse, just because I think that's how it goes. You know, right now you're seeing a couple of Ivies be hot. You're seeing Yale hot. You're seeing Penn State play really well because they had some good recruiting classes. But the reality is kids get bored, and kids will, to a degree, favor some of these old school blue blood programs. Again, I think that if either of those teams got a new coach, I think that would be good for them. But I do not think for a second either of those coaches are on the hot seat, and I don't think that those teams would realistically be any better. I think that the main thing that the young coach brings to play is a little bit of buzz around recruiting. I think that a kid that may not choose Syracuse next year because, you know, they've had the same coaching staff forever, he may choose, let's say, High Point or something like that and want to be a part of something new. I think that when that something new surrounds a team like Hopkins or Syracuse or Virginia, these blue blood programs, that something new more often than not is going to lead to a resurgence of those programs. And I think that Syracuse gets a new coach, you're going to see them in the top 5 for a couple of years. I think Hopkins gets a new coach, you'd see them in the top 5, but believe me, that will level off. And please do not take that as me trying to say Petro and Desko need to be removed, because they don't. That is just dumb. These guys get their teams into the tournament. These guys are storied coaches. They are still good recruiters. They are still incredible teachers of the game. So when I say that a team benefits from a young coach coming in, it's just because kids are dumb. And that kid that may choose a different school because they want to be part of something different, they would maybe pick Syracuse or Hopkins because that would be their chance to do something different for one of the blue bloods and for the new coach. And I think that's just, it's a good marketing ploy. It's kind of more of a marketing head thing than it is anything based in true reality, but alas, it is. It's real. So yeah, that's the answer to my question. I think that we're all good and we're all allowed to be upset. Yes, I agree with you that we should probably just be happy that they're still relevant, and as relevant as they are, making the tournament every year. And a team like Hopkins making the tournament every year with a close to 500 record, that's just a testament to their schedule. I think that's part of the other problem with Syracuse and Hopkins is they've kept that brutal schedule and they don't play extra games. A lot of these other teams like Duke and Virginia seem to play more games during the regular season than Hopkins and Syracuse do, but Hopkins and Syracuse have kind of taken the quality over the quantity to a degree. And that doesn't always pan out, because you look at Virginia and Duke with a team like High Point, which would traditionally have just been a blowout win for them, and they both lose to High Point. So that crap happens too. And that's happened to, I watched Syracuse one year lose to Villanova in the Dome, and that was supposed to be a gimme game for Syracuse that year, but Villanova had a tough squad, a veteran squad, and they beat them. So moral of the story, yes, we have a right to be upset. Yes, we should expect a lot from them. No, we shouldn't whine and cry and call for the coach's head when they don't make it to Memorial Day weekend, because that's dumb. In no sport in college, no team in college sports is going to remove a coach that makes the playoffs every year. That's just stupid. And more importantly, those teams have a ton of money. Despite the fact they haven't been to Memorial Day, they're still they're getting all the TV. They're they're getting on TV a lot. They're getting they're making money for their schools. And I believe Syracuse, I forget who said it, might have been Peacock, said something about Syracuse has a bigger budget than any other team. So it's one of those deals where, no, the coaches should not be fired because they haven't made it to Memorial Day weekend. But I get it. And yes, I think that the coaching changes would actually have a positive effect initially. But eventually people aren't going to be as excited about Tiffany in Virginia. Eventually people aren't going to be as excited about Danowski, or Danowski's going to retire at Duke. So I think that that's how you'll see the power shift a little bit, and teams like Hopkins, Syracuse have a resurgence. Another team that I hope has another resurgence, like a Cornell, somebody like that. I think that you're going to see some teams out west, though, start doing really well also, because from a recruiting perspective, if they start kind of cornering the market in their corner of the country, I think teams like Utah could step up. I think teams like Denver, as lacrosse picks up more out. Denver's good every year, but Denver is one of those teams also that don't ever count them out. They're just a one or two really good recruits away from getting themselves back to Memorial Day weekend as well. So yes, Syracuse and Hopkins fans, we're babies. I understand it, but I get why we're big babies. But I agree we should all chill out a little bit and be cool. Be cool, man. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you are notified when we put out more videos. If you want to support us beyond that, you can go to LaxFactor.com and get yourself swag, t-shirts, coffee cups, shorts, all that good crap. But more importantly, just share the video and all that good stuff. And as always, thank you for watching.